Hello, welcome to the morning news. Our top story takes us to Mexico. The country is marred by violence, and just a few days before elections, the federal government is facing the worst pre-electoral climate in history.
The elections have been shadowed by attacks against at least 40 candidates across the country. At least 8 of them have been killed, including mayoral candidates in the embattled states of Michoacán and Guerrero. Miguel Ángel Luna, a federal congressional candidate, is the latest victim of the violence against candidates in Mexico. 3 gunmen entered his campaign office in broad daylight and shot him and another local council candidate in Chalco, in the state of Mexico, just a few miles from Mexico City. Luna was rushed to hospital where he died. His party, the PRD, has condemned the crime.
The demand that the local and federal authorities guarantee the elections in a state of calm, which implies that the National Electoral Institute, in its role, takes the proper provisions along with the federal and state governments to ensure calm, which we hope becomes a reality so that the people can go out and vote.
At least 4 states in Mexico reported pre-electoral violence. In Oaxaca, protest and unrest entered its second day as protesters in the southern Guerrero state burned ballots and other electoral materials. Families of the 43 forcibly disappeared Ayotzinapa students recently vowed to boycott this Sunday's elections. In Oaxaca, teachers continued their actions against June 7th midterm elections. Federal electoral authorities have said they will not open polling stations where security is not guaranteed. The PRD has suggested the ruling PRI party might be behind the lack of security.
The only ones who benefit from a no vote is the Institutional Revolutionary Party. We, in the Democratic Revolutionary Party, in the Labour Party, in our de facto left-leaning coalition, we make a call to all people to go out and vote and not be intimidated by the isolated event.
Despite that, according to polls, President Enrique Peña Nieto's PRI party is ahead of voter preference with 32%, his administration faces a tough challenge this Sunday. It is also his first electoral test since he took power in December 2012. Peña Nieto has faced corruption scandals, including the fact that he lied about his assets and the revelation that he owned various properties given to him by companies that were benefited by government contracts. NGOs and international organizations have said repression, torture and violence had increased since he became president.
We continue our Latin American coverage in Brazil. President Dilma Rousseff announced that her government has allocated close to $60 billion to support farming production through 2016. Rousseff also announced that farmers who implement measures protecting the environment will be rewarded. The official investment in agriculture represents the highest sum ever allocated to the sector in the country's history. It is 25% higher than last year. A 2014 United Nations report praised Rousseff for her efforts to promote food security and reduce hunger in Brazil. The president of Colombia, Juan Manuel Santos, said that his government hopes to lead a charge around the world to reform how drug trafficking is fought. Santos is hosting the 23rd International Conference for the Control of Drugs in Cartagena City. He urged the 127 countries represented at the event to provide a more holistic approach and less focus on mass incarceration. President Santos said that almost 1 million people have been arrested in Colombia since 1993 on drug-related charges. The head of state suggested this has done very little to curtail drug trade in his country, which is the largest cocaine producer in the world.
We need, and when I say need, I'm talking about the whole world, a new focus to confront the drug problem. What we want now is to even more manual eradication, and more than anything else, launch a more effective substitution strategy for cultivations.
The Colombian peace talks in Havana will continue the next hours. The 37th cycle of the dialogues currently underway between FARC rebels and the government are centered on the victims of the conflict. The rebel delegation said the issue has been analyzed for about a year, and yet there is no agreement in sight. In the meantime, back in Colombia, our correspondent Natalia Margarita tells us about the concerns of the rural communities regarding the escalation of the 5-decade-old conflict, which has left over 220,000 deaths and over 6 million people affected.
March this year, an unprecedented agreement between the army and the FARC was announced. As both parties will jointly start clearing Colombia's landmines, rural residents celebrated the decision as the first concrete measure that, resulting from the ongoing peace negotiations, would start alleviating their lives. Now concern is running high among communities.
Any incident that takes place amid the armed conflict could have an impact over such an important decision of demining. Our biggest concern is that the demining process ends up reversing, as it already has happened with the unilateral ceasefire that was reversed and the suspension of airstrikes.
The concern comes in the wake of the recent escalation of the conflict that, according to local communities, is thwarting the conditions for a demining operation and very likely would lead to more mines planting.
To clear landmines is risky itself, and the risks increase when conflict is underway, when armed confrontation is taking place. That is why, once again, we as indigenous communities, also as human rights advocates, call on a bilateral ceasefire, so that the mining process can develop under better conditions and that we can also contribute on it.
According to the director of Colombian Campaign Against Mines, Álvaro Jiménez, the FARC and the government have complied with the agreed demining operation, and that is why, regardless of the recent conflict escalation, a detailed field recognition continues to be underway in Antioquia, one of Colombia's states initially chosen to implement the demining pilot plan. However, he insists on the necessity of a cessation of hostilities.
The demining process is designed to construct confidence among the parties involved, but also confidence from society towards the peace process. However, the increase in operations outside of the demining areas, the increase of airstrikes, deaths, attacks, and in general the escalation of the conflict, I believe will destroy the confidence of the society towards the peace negotiations.
Residents of Colombia's war zones have insisted on a bilateral ceasefire as a way to bring down to their territories what so far has been agreed in Havana. Natalia Margarita, Telesur, Bogotá, Colombia.
A court in Costa Rica ruled in favor of same-sex marriages, paving the way for gay and lesbian couples to demand equal marriage rights. And still in Central America, Nicaragua marked International Sex Workers' Day, with a historic decision at the Supreme Court classifying sex workers as official representatives of the government and the judicial system. The acknowledgement marks a notably progressive decision for the region. A new study has revealed that U.S.-led invasions in Pakistan and Afghanistan left over 150,000 people dead. The report also revealed that a stunning amount of civilians were the main victims. A study of Brown University in Chicago entitled "The Cost of War" said close to 50,000 civilians were killed by U.S. soldiers and their allies since 2001. More than 160,000 people were also injured. The report also warned that Washington's decision to delay the retreat of its forces from Afghanistan will only aggravate the situation. A new report reveals the FBI is responsible for dozens of mysterious aircraft carrying video cameras and fictitious company names to monitor cities across the U.S. The institution has been deploying planes made to look like they are belonging to fake companies. The FBI has sent out more than 100 planes to 3 cities in 11 states in just 1 month, including to Baltimore, where they assisted police during the unrest that erupted following the death of African-American Freddie Gray. The flights are said to be mostly unauthorized, but the footage they obtain can be used in prosecutions. Police in Boston have shot and killed a person in a case that may once again reveal excessive use of force by security agents in the country, or at least expose the lack of training to retrain a suspect. In this case, authorities are justifying killing a man, saying he was a terrorist threat. But the fact remains that they were unable to control one person wielding a knife. The man was outnumbered by Boston police and FBI agents who approached the 26-year-old Osama Rahim in a parking lot. They say the man attempted to attack them. The FBI also says the victim was under surveillance by the institution and the Joint Terrorism Task Force.
Clearly, in these circumstances, both the FBI and the Boston police did everything they could possibly do to get this individual to drop his knife, and at some point, unfortunately, we had to take his life. So,
In an unusual statement, President Barack Obama criticized Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's terms for diplomacy. He said Netanyahu had lost international credibility as a potential peacemaker due to his refusal to recognize the Palestinian state. During an interview with Israel television, Obama also suggested that continued U.S. diplomatic defense for Israel at the United Nations over the Palestine dispute may be reviewed. However, he did reaffirm U.S. support for Israel's security in a conflict-ridden Middle East.
Already, the international community does not believe that Israel is serious about a two-state solution.
And in China, over 4,000 police, firefighters, and soldiers continue desperate efforts to rescue about 400 people that remain missing since a boat capsized in Yangtze River Monday. The death toll has risen to 18, while only 14 people have been rescued alive. The boat sank within minutes after being caught in a cyclone in the central province of Hubei, according to the ship's captain and chief engineer. They both survived the incident and are in police custody as investigations into the worst river tragedy in China in over 70 years take place. The FIFA scandal continues. It has forced Joseph Blatter to resign and paved the way for new leadership. According to FIFA regulations, elections cannot take place for at least another 4 months.
Only 4 days after being re-elected for a 5th term, Blatter decided to step down as FIFA president. He bowed to international criticism and calls for his resignation. His announcement came 6 days after the arrest of 6 of FIFA highest officials accused of widespread corruption and money laundering. Hours after he resigned, various news outlets quoted unidentified sources saying that Blatter was now also a part of the FBI and U.S. prosecutor investigation. When asked if he had been contacted by investigators and if he feared going to jail, this is what Blatter responded.
Listen, the question number 1, no. Question number 2, arrested for what? Next question.
Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro on Tuesday suggested that Argentine soccer legend Diego Maradona become the next FIFA president. He also said that the Football Federation should be led by either Maradona or some like him. Maduro said the football star had been denouncing FIFA corruption for years. Maradona has been openly critical of Blatter for some time, and before the recent FIFA election, he expressed his support for Blatter's rival Jordanian Prince Ali bin Al Hussein.
More on these on our website, telesurtv.net/English. Thank you for watching and have a good day.